Vietnam has a rich and intricate history that dates back over 10,000 years. The Hong Bang dynasty is considered the earliest civilization in Vietnam, ruling from 2879 BC to 258 BC. In 208 BC, the Chinese Han dynasty conquered Vietnam, which remained under Chinese rule for more than a millennium. This period saw the development of Vietnamese culture and identity, as well as the adoption of Chinese writing systems and Confucianism and Buddhism. In the 10th century, Ngo Nguyen led a successful Vietnamese rebellion against Chinese rule, leading to the establishment of the first independent Vietnamese kingdom. This period saw the development of defensive structures and a distinct Vietnamese culture. In the 13th century, Vietnam successfully repelled an invasion by the Mongol Empire under Kublai Khan. This victory is still celebrated in Vietnam today. The 15th century saw the rise of the powerful Lưu dynasty, which led to a period of cultural and artistic flourishing, including the development of the famous Vietnamese martial art. However, the Lưu dynasty eventually fell into corruption and weakness, leading to its downfall in the late 18th century. In the 19th century, Vietnam became a French colony, leading to significant changes in the country's economy, politics, and culture. The French introduced Western-style education, modern transportation systems, and new crops like coffee and rubber, which significantly contributed to the economic growth of Vietnam. However, the Vietnamese people were subjected to exploitation and discrimination under French colonial rule, leading to a rise in nationalism and resistance. During World War II, Japan occupied Vietnam, leading to a rise in Vietnamese nationalism and a desire for independence. After the war, Vietnam declared independence, but the French returned to reclaim their colony, leading to the First Indochina War from 1946 to 1954. The Vietnamese forces led by Ho Chi Minh successfully defeated the French, leading to the Geneva Accords, which temporarily divided Vietnam into North and South. The 1960s saw the outbreak of the Vietnam War, a conflict between the Communist government of North Vietnam and the anti-Communist government of South Vietnam, with the United States supporting the South. The war resulted in significant destruction and loss of life, including many civilians. In 1975, North Vietnamese forces captured Saigon, reunifying the country under Communist rule. Since then, Vietnam has undergone significant economic and social development, with the country experiencing rapid growth in recent decades. Vietnam has emerged as a dynamic and fast-growing economy in Southeast Asia, with a thriving tourism industry and a strong export sector. The country has also made significant progress in poverty reduction, healthcare, and education, and has become a member of the World Trade Organization and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Despite challenges, Vietnam is a resilient and culturally rich country that continues to evolve and make strides in the global community.
Did you know that the history of the Philippines is a rich and complex story that spans thousands of years, from the pre-colonial era to the present day? The Philippines was inhabited by various indigenous tribes, including the Tagalogs, Cebuanos, and Ilocanos. They traded with neighboring countries like China and India, and had their own systems of writing, art, and architecture. In 1521, the Spanish explorer Ferdinand Magellan arrived in the Philippines and claimed the islands for Spain. The Spanish colonized the Philippines for over 300 years, and during this time, they introduced Christianity, a new system of government, and new technologies. They also brought with them diseases that decimated the native population, and exploited the country's resources for their own benefit. In 1896, the Philippine Revolution against Spanish rule began, led by national hero José Rizal and other revolutionary leaders. The revolution eventually led to the establishment of the First Philippine Republic in 1899, but this was short-lived, as the Philippines was soon taken over by the United States. The United States colonized the Philippines from 1898 to 1946, during which time they established a democratic government. In 1941, the Philippines was invaded by Japan during World War II. The The country suffered greatly during the Japanese occupation, with widespread atrocities and human rights abuses committed against the civilian population. The Philippines was liberated by American and Filipino forces in 1945. After the war, the Philippines became an independent nation, with Manuel Roxas as its first president. The country faced many challenges in the post-war era, including political corruption, poverty, and the ongoing struggle for self-determination by various groups. In the 1970s and 1980s, the country was ruled by the authoritarian government of Ferdinand Marcos, who imposed martial law and curtailed civil liberties. In 1986, a peaceful popular uprising known as the People Power Revolution ousted Marcos from power and restored democracy to the Philippines. This event is considered a watershed moment in Philippine history, and is celebrated annually as a national holiday. Since the People Power Revolution, the Philippines has experienced both progress and setbacks, with economic growth and political stability alternating with.
The People's Republic of China is one of the largest countries in the world, covering 9.6 square kilometers. It borders 14 nations, and this number is equaled only by Russia. The capital city is Beijing, and Shanghai is the city with the most people living in it. A few of the main places to see in China are the Great Wall of China, which is the longest wall in the world, the Terracotta Army, which represents the army that was the decisive factor in forming a united China, the Forbidden City, which is a place of Chinese cultural and historical relics, and giant pandas, which can be seen close up. The climate of China is extremely diverse, from tropical regions in the south to subarctic regions in the north. China has two major rivers, the Yellow River and the Yangtze River. There is also the Taklamakan Desert and the Gobi Desert. The world's highest point, Mount Everest, is on the border between China and Nepal. The current president of China is Xi Jinping, and he has been in the office since 2012. The official language of China is Standard Mandarin, which is mostly based on the Beijing dialect. Many regions in China have their own dialects, which can be very different. China was one of the world's earliest civilizations. The recorded history of Chinese civilization can be tracked to the Yellow River Valley, which is said to be the cradle of Chinese civilization. China was unified in 221 BC by Qin Shi Huang, which was the first emperor of China. The 2,000-year-old imperial system collapsed in 1911 when Sun Yat-sen founded the Republic of China. In 1916, China descended into anarchy, with various warlords ruling over different regions of China. The Chinese Civil War from 1946 to 1949 led to the breakup of the country, with the communist leader Mao Zedong founding the People's Republic of China on the mainland, while the losing side retreated to Taiwan. Since the introduction of economic reforms in 1978, China has been one of the world's fastest growing economies. It is the second largest economy by nominal GDP after the United States, and the largest country by purchasing power parity. And here are some interesting facts. China is the owner of all pandas in the world. Any pandas in other countries are lent from China. China has only one time zone, therefore in some places the sun rises as late as 10 a.m. China is the only country in the world where the reproduction is limited. Until 2015, Chinese couples were allowed to have only one child.
The Republic of Korea is a country in East Asia, constituting the southern part of the Korean peninsula, and sharing a land border with North Korea. The name Korea is derived from Goguryeo, one of the great powers in East Asia during its time, ruling most of the Korean peninsula, Manchuria, parts of the Russian Far East, and Inner Mongolia, under Gwanggaeteo the Great. Its capital, Seoul, is a major global city, and half of South Korea's over 51 million people live in the Seoul capital area, the fourth largest metropolitan economy in the world. The Korean peninsula was inhabited as early as the Lower Paleolithic period. Its first kingdom was noted in Chinese records in the early 7th century BC. Following the unification of the three kingdoms of Korea into Silla and Balhae in the late 7th century, Korea was ruled by the Goryeo dynasty, 918 to 1392, and the Joseon dynasty, 1392 to 1897. The succeeding Korean Empire was annexed into the Empire of Japan in 1910. After World War II, Korea was divided into Soviet and US-administered zones, with the latter becoming the Republic of Korea in August 1948. In 1950, a North Korean invasion began the Korean War, and after its end in 1953, the country's economy began to soar, recording the fastest rise in average GDP per capita in the world between 1980 and 1990. The June struggle led to the end of authoritarian rule in 1987, and the country is now the most advanced democracy and has the highest level of press freedom in Asia. It has the 10th highest social mobility globally, with 17% of children born to parents in the bottom half of educational attainment ending up in the top quarter. South Korea is a member of the OECD's Development Assistance Committee, the G20, and the Paris Club. South Korea is a highly developed country, and currently the world's 12th largest economy by nominal GDP. Its citizens enjoy the world's fastest internet connection speeds and the densest high-speed railway network. It was named the second best country in the world to raise kids in the 2020 UN Child Flourishing Index, with the best chance at survival, thriving, and well-being due to good healthcare, education, and nutrition. Currently the world's 5th largest exporter and 8th largest importer, South Korea is a global leader in many technologies and innovation-driven fields. Since 2014, South Korea has been named the world's most innovative country by the Bloomberg Innovation Index for 6 consecutive years. Since the 21st century, South Korea has been renowned for its globally influential pop culture, particularly in music, K-pop, TV dramas, and cinema, a phenomenon referred to as the Korean Wave.